Hey, it's your friend Choice CJ here, and today I am very proud to be bringing you guys my draft analysis for Season 6 of the MPL, the Major Pokemon League. MPL is a league that I've admired for quite a long time. It always has top-tier battlers in it, and I want to give a big thank you to Moxie and Infernape, to Blue Rogue, and for Regulator for inviting me to the MPL this season. I'm really happy to be a part of it, and I hope that, in this season I can showcase my skills and show that I measure up to all of these awesome competitors. So, with that said, let's talk quickly about the format of the draft, and then we'll go into the actual roster that I drafted. MPL is running with 16 teams this season. The draft is a point-style draft, so we have 120 points with which to build our teams. There is a 25-point Z budget, so you can, add Mons to your Z pool based on how many points they are worth originally. So, for example, Celesteela is worth 19 points, so you subtract that 19 points from your Z pool to give yourself 6 remaining points, and that's in addition to the 19 points that it subtracts from your overall 120 points. And so I don't think there's actually a limit on how many Z-Mons you can draft, but there's like a practical limit. I don't think anybody has more than 3. Yeah, and just looking at the draft recap page, that is true. And so a few notable Mons were permitted this season that might otherwise be banned in other leagues. Tapu Lele, Lando I with Sheer Force, Megaladios. Excuse me. All of those did get drafted. All those were allowed. And, they were drafted. They were all round 1 picks. Because they're broken. Another Mon that was allowed that I think is becoming more and more common is Mega Mawile. I think that just due to its speed and the Sucker Punch nerf and things like that, people don't feel as threatened by Mega Mawile as they once did, so they're generally okay with allowing it into the leagues. But nothing else, I think, came down from the ban list. We don't have like Speed Boost Blaziken or Protean Greninja or Marshadow or Mega Gengar or anything crazy like that. I guess we do have Mega Kang with no Seismic Toss, but again, that seems like it's pretty standard these days. Not anything crazy there. So I think that pretty much covers most of the draft in terms of the rules and everything like that. So without further ado, let's talk about the Pokemon that we drafted. We did end up with the 9th overall pick, so smack dab in the middle, 8 people before us, 7 people after us. And a lot of good Mons went in the first 8 picks, things like Tapu Koko, Celesteela, Mega Mawile, Lando I, Megaladios, things like that. And I didn't really have any draft plan going into this. I'm kind of at the point where I no longer build top to bottom draft plans. Basically, I just let the first 3 or 4 rounds occur, and I just take things that I want to use. And then once I get to that point, I sort of figure out what are the best ways to round this team out. And that way I get to get a couple of really fun Mons and end up not being too disappointed when the things that I want get taken. And so there's nothing that really screamed out to me with my 9th overall pick. There are a few good Mons on the board like Mew, Kyurem Black, Clefable, etc. But a lot of those Mons I'd used before, and I was eager to try something new. And something that I've never drafted before is a Pokemon that's near and dear to almost everybody's heart, I imagine. Gen 1ers for life. My first overall pick is Toothless, aka Mega Charizard X. And Charizard, it's gotten a bad rap for a long time because of the glaring weakness to Stealth Rocks. But I think with time, people have sort of learned how to mitigate that. There's a lot more wall-breaking sets that you can run on Charizard in addition to its normal sweeping sets that make it extremely, extremely dangerous. And the thing that I really like about Charizard as well is that it's got great natural bulk and great typing. It makes it a very good switch-in to things like electric types that are otherwise generally very threatening in draft. Excuse me. And so, just for all those different combinations, I thought Zard was a potential Mon that would be really fun to use. Do I think it's like a mid-round 1 pick? Not necessarily, maybe back end of round 1 or sometime in round 2. But just due to the fact that I really wanted to use it and there's nothing else that was I was really desperate to use, it felt appropriate to take Charizard number 1 overall. And so with that, a lot of drafts that use Mega Charizard X tend to partner it with this next Pokemon, which is Foxhound, my superior. Foxhound being the name of the unit that Solid Snake is in the Metal Gear Solid series. And so Superior, like, in addition to blowing up all of the normal checks to Charizard, like anything that's Water type, Rock type, or Ground type, Superior got a really neat buff with Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, getting Defog. So we can use Superior to get rid of the annoying hazards that Charizard doesn't like. And then just Superior on its own is a very, very threatening Mon. You know, right off the bat, it has, like, you know, pretty mediocre special attack, but as we all know, Contrary, which is its fantastic ability, can easily get boosts going for Superior in combination with its move Leaf Storm. And so that in combination with just its bare minimum coverage, you know, Dragon Pulse, Hidden Power Fire, that's pretty much it. Those all together allow it to blow through a lot of its checks. Just because once if you switch something in on Superior and Superior is able to 2-hit KO it, all of a sudden you're staring down a +4 Pokemon with a 113 speed stat, which is definitely threatening. And so Superior and Charizard X go together like peanut butter and jelly. They are just a great pair. A classic core is to then combo this with something like Dugtrio, because that blows back Pokemon like Heatran. But I didn't feel like I needed Dugtrio to go with this core, and I had another ground type in mind later on for the draft. With that said, I wanted my next pick to be something that can weaken the normal switch-ins to things like Charizard and Superior. So, basically, I want something that's going to, like, that could be both a switch-in to itself and to Charizard and or Superior. So for example, water types can switch in fairly easily on Charizard, so I want something that would also lure in waters. And like Superior, maybe like a grass type or a dragon type would be lured in by Superior. And so the Pokemon that I want to draft next has to have the ability to lure those in and then weaken those. And so Greninja, aka Pashmina, for those stylish Pashmina Afghans, the king of the world on a boat like Leo, is going to be my third round pick. Greninja is been a Pokemon near and dear to my heart ever since I used it as one of my starters in Pokemon X. And everyone knows how good this thing is, even without the ability Protean, even without the ability Battle Bond. This thing's combination of speed, coverage, and utility is virtually unmatched. The coverage moves are ridiculous, and the fact that it gets the Dark Stab is what's really nice here. So the normal Water Stab is what's going to lure in the water types that Charizard doesn't like. It's going to lure in the grass and dragon types that Superior doesn't like. Then I can bop them with a very powerful Dark Pulse, or hit them with one of my other amazing coverage moves like Ice Beam, Gunk Shot, Low Kick, Grass Knot, you name it. If I can just get critical damage on those things, a +1 Charizard can now break through that all of a sudden. A +2 Superior can now break through that all of a sudden. And to top it off, if I don't want to use Greninja as like a wall breaker, quote unquote, not like a wall breaker, like I'm going to hit you with a 150 base attack wall breaker, but again, for whittling the checks to my other big sweepers. If that's not enough, I can also use Greninja to lay hazards. It gets access to both spikes and toxic spikes. It gets taunt. It gets U-turn. So it just gets so much utility that it just seems like Greninja was such a good pick here. And, now I have, with Greninja in the fold, I have 3 Mons that are at base 100 or above. I'm feeling very good about my speed, and I think that I'm going to have a very good offensive draft, and that's the style that I really like to use. I like to be applying pressure, forcing switches. I want to be making predictions, have my opponent be on the back foot, and put myself in a position where I can always be like getting an advantage, getting one step ahead. And so these 3 Mons at the top of the draft certainly allows me to do that. Now, with my next pick, I'm starting to think about sort of how do I round out my team, what key resistances do I need, what utility do I need. And so I don't have a very good fairy resist right now, I don't have a very good flying resist right now, I don't have stealth rocks, and like other than Charizard X, I'm sort of lacking a traditional physical wall breaker. And so one Mon that really stood out to me that could serve in fulfilling all of those roles was Metagross, aka Gonna Give It To Ya. Shoutouts to Year the Dog DMX. That's like a throwback to like what, 1998 or something like that. Oh man, like so many middle school dances with that song. But I digress. Metagross is, it gets overshadowed because everyone thinks about Mega Metagross these days and how amazing Mega Metagross is in League format with that incredible speed stat, great mixed attacking stats, setup options, amazing bulk. But Metagross on its own is also extremely useful. Like base 135 attack, that's higher than Garchomp. That's more attack than Latios has special attack. It's just pretty amazing. It's got more physical attack than Bisharp, than Weavile. Like I could go on and on and on. So this thing hits incredibly hard. It's a very good switch into almost any flying type. Staraptor doesn't have a way to hit this thing super effectively. Pinsir doesn't have a way. It does have Earthquake, but it doesn't have super effective stab for dealing with this thing. It does get priority, which is incredibly useful. I've got Stab Bullet Punch to combo with the Stab Water Shuriken on my Greninja. And it's got great setup options. It's got Power Up Punch, Agility, things like that. So, in addition, it's a very, very good Assault Vest user. It just makes it overall so hard to break through because it's so damn fat. It does have Stealth Rocks. It's my first Stealth Rock user on the team. And it's got Pursuit as well for dealing with annoying Psychic types. Like, Psychic types can be a little annoying to my team so far just because, Greninja is not the strongest Dark type in the world. So, Metagross seems like an all-star pickup. Very excited to have this thing on my team, and this is the first time that I'm going to be having Metagross on a Draft League team. Next up, I wanted to pick up my ground type because electric immunities are really good. Most ground types also get Stealth Rock, so I have another Stealth Rocker on the team. Another sort of backup flying check. I want something that can resist poison type moves, etc., etc. And seeing that I still need a hazard remover, Fat Tire, my Dawn fan, was my next pick. Fat Tire being a shout out to the New Belgium Belgian-style beer, and Fat Tire is very good. So yeah, Donphan, it's mostly known for its defensive capabilities, for being like Fizz Def sets, Assault Vest with max attack, and things like that. But don't rule out offensive sets of Donphan. Like Jolly sets running Rock Polish are really scary on Donphan. So I like that this thing is a dual threat. And then, just the utility of having Stealth Rock, Rapid Spin, Endeavor, Knockoff, having a really good physical moveset like Gunk Shot, Stone Edge and Head Smash, etc., etc. It's got priority in Ice Shard. Makes this thing extremely, extremely good, and it's good especially in combination with the other Mons that I have on my team. So, I think this is going to be a fantastic Mon, and excited to be using it. One Mon that, or a couple of Mons that I was potentially looking at were some of the electric types that are really threatening in the format. So, like the two Thunderuses, I was looking at potentially drafting. Zapdos I wanted, but Zapdos got taken pretty early. Zapdos actually was going to be my second overall pick, but that got taken before the draft came back to me. And so, there weren't too many amazing options for electric types at this point. But basically I wanted something that can hit extremely hard. I've got a few Mons that can hit extremely hard on the physical side. Greninja and Serperior are sort of lightweights on the special side. Like on the you know, Serperior of course can boost, but doesn't have the immediate power that I might want in a wall breaker. And so with all of that in mind, Xurkitree seemed like a awesome pickup. And you know, using the Ultra Beasts is always really fun, just because they have such wonky stats. Like their spreads are always so funky. Beast Boost is an incredible ability, boosting the largest stat that you have based on your EV spread. And Xurkitree is just really cool. It gets, you know, it's got freaking base 173 special attack and a pretty decent move pool. You know, it's got fairy coverage, grass coverage, bug coverage, and things like that. Gets access to Tail Glow for setup options. It's going to be my Z-Move user, or one of my Z-Move users. So it allows me to run Z Electric Terrain, or Z Rain Dance, or Z Hypnosis to give it speed boosts. You know, what are you going to use against a +1 Xurkitree? Like, even if Xurkitree doesn't end up being all that effective throughout the season, the fact that most teams will be 6-0'd by a +1 Xurkitree unless they have a like Scarf Ground type that can revenge kill it is really awesome, because it makes team building really restrictive. Like, I can look at my team, and I can say, okay, so my opponent has to bring this set on this Pokemon, otherwise they get 6-0'd by Rain Dance Xurkitree. Like, that's incredibly useful to have that information ahead of time. Like, it's just, enough can't be said about it. You know, that's why certain Mons, like Hoopa, like, or Kangaskhan, like, I don't think they're, like, inherently broken. Like, they're not going to pick up 30 kills over the course of a season. But the fact that they force certain prep is really amazing. Like, that's what makes them amazing Mons. Like, you have to bring a especially defensive Dark-type Pokemon to deal with Hoopa, or like a physically defensive Fairy-type Pokemon, or sorry, especially defensive Fairy-type Pokemon. For dealing with Kangaskhan, you have to have something with Rocky Helmet, and you have to be packing Fighting-type coverage on a lot of your Mons. So it just makes it introduces a very large burden on team building, and I think Xurkitree is a Mon like that as well. So that's enough rambling about Xurkitree. I do want to go quickly through my last 5 Mons. This has already been a slightly longer team builder than a draft analysis than I had hoped it would be. But you know, I have the Greninja on the team to lure things like water types that a Charizard hates. Xurkitree can be a reliable lure for ground types, because obviously ground types want to switch into the electric type moves that they are immune to. And I can hit that up with things like Energy Ball, especially an Energy Ball that's boosted by a Bloom Doom. I don't feel like I have an amazing lure for rock types yet. And so with my next pick, I decided to go with Rambo the Braviary. And the reason that Braviary is really nice in this slot is basically for one reason. It gets superpower coverage for dealing with rock types. So not only are rock types, you know, pressured to switch into Braviary and take very powerful base 123 Brave Birds, you know, from a 120 base power move, but then I can hit them up with a super effective superpower, and all of a sudden that Pokemon is no longer a reliable response for Charizard X. That's the number one reason that Braviary got put on this team. In addition to that, Braviary has a lot of useful utility on its own, being a defogger, having U-turn, and having Defiant. Like, I've got some reasonable hazard options up to this point, and so if my opponent wants to remove those with Defog, Braviary can definitely take advantage of that. So, turns it into a very good Scarf user. It can switch in, get a +2 boost, and then just spam Brave Bird for the win. It's also got useful sets like Bulk Up that can be very, very potent if you don't have Electric type coverage or Rock type coverage on your team. Bulk Up Braviary with Roost can very easily sweep through teams. So I think it's a very awesome addition to the team. Now, one of the things that I've learned in Draft League is that you have to be prepared to deal with certain fat Pokemon, such as Porygon 2, Umbreon, Cresselia, Mew, things like that. And so the best way to deal with those types of Pokemon is to have high base power, like high base attack, super effective stab moves on your team. And so looking at my team right now, the only thing that I have that hits Psychic types super effectively with stab is Greninja. I don't have any fighting type coverage for dealing with Porygon. I don't have any fighting or fairy or bug coverage for dealing with Umbreon. And so looking at all of those things, GTL, my Buzzwole, seemed like a very natural pickup. And oh boy, this thing is, I've been looking forward to having Buzzwole on my team for such a long time. Ever since I saw Monotui draft it with his second overall pick in Season 7 of the GBA, he used a lot of really cool Buzzwole sets, setup sets, scarf sets, you name it. Buzzwole was just awesome. In addition to being really good offensively and being able to deal with a lot of those annoying fat things that I mentioned, Buzzwole also has a convenient typing for making it an extremely good check to bug types and fighting types. So far in the draft, I feel like I am very weak to things like Mega Lopunny. Buzzwole helps mitigate that by quite a bit. And it's true that, it does have a 4x flying weakness that's fairly easy to exploit. That can be dealt with by running Koba Berries in weeks where it feels necessary. And Buzzwole doesn't miss the leftovers all that much because it does have access to Roost. So Buzzwole, I think, is going to be fantastic for dealing with some of my least favorite things in draft format. To help patch up that psychic or the fighting type weakness that I've alluded to, the next mon that I decided to take was Slurpuff. And so everyone kind of knows what Slurpuff does. It's a very, very dangerous belly drum sweeper. It also has access to Calm Mind if you run Calm Mind sets with Citrus Berry or Iapapa Berry or whatever. It can get a boost and serve as a special sweeper. It's got good Cleric access. But with Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, it also got a very dangerous Suicide Lead set because it gets access to Sticky Web now. In my team, while I wouldn't describe it as slow, I have 3 Pokemon that are above base 100 or above. I've got a bunch of Pokemon around the base 80 speed tier. I've got Metagross and Donphan with speed boosting options with Rock Polish and things like that. I feel like being able to run Sticky Web on Slurpuff would be just a very valuable asset to have. So adding Red Velvet, my Slurpuff, just seemed like such a good fit. And I'm really excited for using this in the season. To complete my core of fighting type resists, we're bringing back an old friend to the team, and that is Qwilfish. Qwilfish I've used like 2 or 3 other times before in the past on various playoff teams, and this thing is the GOAT. I'm not joking around. This thing is amazing. If you watched Gypsy King's run on the MPL last season, you know how amazing Qwilfish was for him. It's got great defensive utility because of its ability Intimidate. It's got pretty decent natural defense. It's got a decent enough support move pool with Destiny Bond, Pain Split, Thunder Wave, things like that. It's even got a pretty reasonable offensive utility because it does get Swift Swim. So if you can run Swift Swim sets, it's actually pretty cheeky. I don't know if we get... No, we do get Rain Dance. So we can run Rain Dance Qwilfish and take lives from our opponents, which would be really awesome. And, we can't talk about Qwilfish without also mentioning Spikes and Toxic Spikes, which, again, are very beneficial to my team. So I always like having 2 water types as well. There's a few typings that I really like having duplicates of. Water is one of them. Ground is another. And then steel types. I think those are the 3 most valuable things to have multiples of. Just because they're so useful defensively that it discourages certain prep from my opponents. And so Qwilfish helps me with having dual waters, and also having a grounded poison type for potentially getting rid of toxic spikes that my opponents choose to lay. At this point in the draft, I only have 2 points remaining, and so I can't really get any slam dunk picks. But I thought it would be cool to grab a meme and take up my boy Anthony Davis, aka Alolan Graveler. You gotta love that monobrow. It's pretty awesome. Graveler here, I don't think it's gonna come to too many games, but it does have some interesting options. It does have Stealth Rock. It's got Self-Destruct, or Explosion, which can be boosted off of Galvanize, which is potentially really scary. It's got Atomize if I want to try and run some really cheeky setup sets. Not that base 95 is anything to write home about, but you never know. And one thing that I thought was really cool was the ability to run Magnet Pull, because it makes my opponents think twice about bringing like Steel types without Shed Shell versus me. Like, most likely, I'm not going to bring Graveler, but again, just like having them think twice in team building, just that little bit of extra restriction could potentially be pretty great. And, having something like Dugtrio for dealing with mons like Heatran would be just slightly better. But, you get a Graveler, you slap a Choice Scarf on this thing, it outspeeds a max speed Heatran with no Scarf. So it's just a little bit cheeky and still overall pretty useful. So all of that said, that is your draft. That is my draft, I guess I should say, for MPL Season 6. This is your all-star roster for the Baltimore Oriolus. And I'm so excited about this season. I'm sure you guys can tell. I hope you all are excited as well. And if you are, make sure you drop a like on this video. And consider dropping a sub so you can stay up to date on all of my latest MPL action. I'm really excited to give this league all that I've got. I really want to have a good showing. And, with all these competitive players in here, I want to prove that I am one of the best competitors in this league. And, I really want to take it by storm. So, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure you check back to my channel for all sorts of other gaming and Pokemon content. And until the next time, I'll see you guys later.